Hello, everyone, and welcome to the National Small Business Week Virtual Summit hosted by the U.S. Small Business Administration and SCORE. I would like to thank Facebook for sponsoring this webinar, Getting Real About Resilience. My name is Bailey Krell, I'm with SCORE, and I will be moderating this webinar session. I am excited to introduce our speakers today. We have Rich Rao, who is the VP of Small Business Group with Facebook. And Rich will be talking with Divya Raghavan, who is the founder and PT of Right Stack Physical Therapy, as well as Josh Landris, who's the owner of J. Landris Brass. Before we begin this discussion, I would like to mention just a few housekeeping items. First, this webinar will last 1 hour. Next, you will have the ability to download the slide deck at the bottom of the webcast console by clicking the handouts icon. Lastly, if you have any questions or technical issues, please submit those using the Q&A box. And now I would like to bring Rich on the line to begin the presentation.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Rich Rao, Vice President of Small Business at Facebook. It's only natural we would use the word resilient when talking about small businesses. On any given day, you're simultaneously figuring out marketing and sales and operations, all while trying to infuse joy and inspiration into your business. And this has been one of the worst economic crises in history, brought on by a global pandemic that has disrupted, most of our ways of living, working, and operating businesses. And that requires another level of resilience. Now today, I'm excited to talk to two small business owners about how they have pivoted, innovated, and really adapted to ultimately defining what it means to be resilient. Now, before we dive into that, I want to share some news with you all as members of the small business community. As I've continued to speak with small businesses about the support they need, there have been two themes that have emerged. First is access to capital, and second is about how to thrive in an online world. So let's start talking about access to capital. Now, we know small businesses need capital. This is how you keep the lights on. We've also seen a more acute need for diverse-owned businesses where small businesses in underserved communities continue to face higher closure rates and lower sales. And so that's why I'm excited to announce we're offering a program to help eligible small businesses get the cash they need. Instead of waiting on customers to finally pay their invoices, Facebook is going to provide you with the funds. So look for more information on that soon. We also have a new funding portal that shares information and guidance on where to apply for small business grants and loan opportunities. So I'm excited about both of those things. And then there's a way we're helping you thrive online. A cornerstone of Facebook's support for small business is about helping get businesses online and thrive once they're there. A big part of this work includes helping small businesses get the training they need to navigate digital tools and ultimately help grow their business. Now, one of the ways we're doing this is through our second annual Global Holiday Training Program. We ran this last year, and we're bringing it back based upon the feedback that we received for 2021. And so what we're really saying here is that Facebook remains committed to supporting small businesses in this pandemic and well beyond as well. And we'll be sharing more information on how you can start using these tools in the coming weeks. So for more updates, head to Facebook's SMB Hub. Now, let's meet our panelists. I want to introduce you to two people who run businesses that I know you will find inspiring to watch. So welcome Dr. Divya Raghavan. She's the founder and principal physical therapist at Right Stack Physical Therapy in Sunnyvale, California. Welcome, Divya. And welcome Josh Landris. He's the owner and master brass technician at a company called J. Landris Brass, a full-service brass instrument store in New York City. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you both. And to kick things off, why don't you share with us a little bit more about your business and tell us what inspired you to start them? Divya, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Rich. So I was a physical therapist at the Google Wellness Centers for over 6 years. And then I decided to start my practice. The main reason was that I felt I wanted to do more community engagement. I wanted to educate people on injury prevention and pain management and self-care strategies. And I felt that, sometimes as a clinician, you are not able to be there before pain happens. You're almost like waiting in your office for people to come and knock at your door. And I wanted to kind of go out and talk to people. And I felt that starting my own business will give me that freedom.
Thank you, Divya. Josh?
Hi, Rich. Thanks so much. I started my business. I've been doing what I do, repairing brass instruments, since I was 13 years old. And it's really what I know how to do best. I worked for over a decade for Sam Ash Music in New York City as a repairman for them. And I had a different direction of where I wanted to have the business. Music and people playing instruments, it's a very passionate thing. It's an extension of one's body. And I really wanted to have a one-on-one and intimate relationship with the musicians and the people whose instruments I was repairing. And working for a large retailer, their one-on-one is not as much as what I wanted. Being that there were no real other places to go, my only option, if I didn't want to work there anymore, was to open my own business. And I opened the business in the hopes of, having more one-on-one relationships with the individual customer, a more curated kind of retail experience to really help a musician do their job the best. And that's really why I started the business.
I love both your stories, just the customer focus that you have in creating your business, which is benefiting so many people, I'm sure. So next question is, well, let's go back to when the pandemic first started. I know it seems like a long time ago now, but if we go back and think about how it happened, it seemed to disrupt our lives very quickly. We didn't have time to plan for this. So take us back, and when it first dawned upon you that this was going to disrupt your business, and what was your first thought as this was happening? Josh, why don't we start with you this time?
Yeah, Rich, I can remember it perfectly. Being in New York, we were one of the epicenters to really shut down first. And being a music store and working with instruments and musicians, March 12th, when Broadway shut down, was really the thing that struck me, that this is a big deal and it's going to be hard for business. And I can remember a few days leading up to that, hearing rumors of music stopping and things like that. But that March 12th date was detrimental to me. And even before that, just the week, I had signed a new lease to move my business because I was losing the lease of where my workshop and store was for the past 8 years. So it was really, a few days after that. And I remember it very clearly, and, worrying about my clientele base and saying, when are people going to, get back to work? Because I depend on musicians working, and with people out of work just in the beginning, Broadway and New York music scene is huge. To have that just close with an unknown beginning date, and still even now it's not come back yet. March 12th was the date.
You remember it very clearly. Divya, how about your recollections of how this all transpired for you?
Yes, my story is slightly different because I transitioned to a full-time business owner on March 1st. So I left my cushy job. I was doing part-time work, and then I decided, okay, it's going well. Let's kind of open my practice and, go all in. And unfortunately, March 12th, I had to shut down my business. Although it was in the essential business category, I wanted to make sure that I'm ready to, be able to offer, a safe space for my patients. So what I did was that, I shut down my clinic. I was at that time pretty skeptical on how I will be, moving forward. But then one good thing was that, I was always interested in doing, video sessions and treat patients virtually, especially, when I was treating a lot of corporate professionals in the Silicon Valley. People would travel a lot, and I wanted to make sure that, I'm there for them, even if they are like out of the state or out of the country. So I had already had some technology capabilities inside my EMR. but I had not used it much, and I consider myself to be more of a hands-on physical therapist. So it was something that I didn't feel that I would be able to provide high-value care. But I was like, okay, time to kind of get myself trained in it. So I went through a few training courses on how to do video-based physical therapy, and then started treating patients within a couple of weeks. And I'm very lucky to say that about 80 to 90% of my patients stuck with me in seeing me virtually. And then about 3 months later, I was again able to open the practice very slowly, only getting a few patients who really needed. I had my front desk person work virtually so that there's nobody in the clinic except me. I had different, ways of people letting me know once they are here. So only once one patient leaves the clinic does the other one come. I had to invest in PPE and making sure that I sanitize everything before and after every patient. So it was definitely very scary in the beginning and made me question everything. I was not a veteran here like Josh is, but I think I stuck through with it, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, so there's a lot here, and I'm gonna try and unpack this for the audience, because there's some amazing things here. I mean, really what we're getting into here is around innovation. Oftentimes we think about, innovation, we'll innovate when we have some free time, after we finish the normal business. But the pandemic said, no, the innovation needs to happen right now. And, thinking very broadly, for the last decade, we've seen businesses, go online. But the pandemic really made it a necessity almost overnight. And one of the quotes that I love is that necessity is the mother of invention. And I think for so many small businesses, that's what the pandemic meant. And so, Divya, you talked about really shifting your business through this virtual experience and adapting very quickly, which is easier said than done. So well done on your part. I would imagine for your patients as well, there were some adjustments. So how did they, you mentioned many of them stuck with you, but what was their initial response? Were they a little bit skeptical, and how did you work them through that?
Yes, for sure. As I mentioned, I'm more of a hands-on physical therapist. So when patients come and spend an hour with me, half of that is, manual therapy. And now when you talk to a patient on the video, you are not able to offer that manual therapy. So of course there was skepticism. And as I mentioned, I was not very confident in that myself. I didn't know if this will work and people will get better through it. But, I feel that in the past 2 years, I have become very, very confident. So in the beginning, my patients were almost like my guinea pigs. And that's why I really appreciate their trust in me, that they were like, okay, let's try and do it. Let's keep your business up and running. So I got their support. And then definitely, using social media was huge, because once I started getting some success stories, like some patients really finding benefit in it, because there's definitely a big benefit in doing video PT. I don't want to digress too much, but what I realized was that, okay, I can see people in their home environment. So if a new mom is telling me that her shoulder hurts every time she carries her newborn, I can now ask her to show me how she does it. Or if a person is like, my back hurts when I'm sitting on my chair, I can be like, okay, can we see your chair and make some ergonomic adjustments? So I found a lot of value in being able to see them in their home environment, having them do, if somebody is a post knee reconstruction, then I can tell them to go up and down their stairs at home instead of trying to simulate that in the clinic when they come here. So, something that started as, I thought, a stopgap arrangement is now an integral part of my practice. And I'm able to see people from all over the world because, I'm able to provide care virtually. So it makes me really expand my business horizons and really, think myself of more than just treating people who come to my office, which was, as I mentioned, in the initial goal was community engagement. So I feel that, although it was a necessity and something I was not very keen on, now I feel it's a great asset to have.
Yeah. We've seen that theme with small businesses of, we are different, but we are permanently augmented, and oftentimes for the better, with new services and new ways to work. Josh, let's go over to you. So, you cater to a specific niche, musicians. If you think about musicians, a lot of it's enjoyed with in-person events, and that's where musicians earn their livelihood. So how did that affect your business? And then how did you shift gears?
So it was really tough. I had a bunch of different factors kind of going against me with the pandemic. One, as you mentioned, is musicians couldn't do their job. They couldn't go and perform. They couldn't go and play. They couldn't do a concert. They couldn't even get together to rehearse. It wasn't safe. And my business being both retail and repair side of things, we really functioned by having walk-in business in the local, New York music community keep us up and running, because, an accident would happen with an instrument or somebody coming in tour needed something. And we didn't have that when we reopened after being closed for 115 days. So we really had to kind of reinvent how we got new clients and how we got work in. And a lot of that was through developing our online presence through social media, a lot of work with Facebook and Instagram and posts and showing, hey, these are the capabilities of my staff and my business. And, we can, even though you're, halfway across the country or even in a different country, we can service your instrument or, find you an instrument that can help you. We can consult with you online and kind of play things for you so you can get an idea and feel of an instrument. And it was really growing that outreach and how to get outside of our local New York community for people to find us. The social media platforms were, I would say, detrimental to the business. It's how we were able to get out there for people. We survived by people sending us in work, and everything was kind of mail order for months, because up until I would say about June of this year, there wasn't really any music happening in New York. People weren't congregating, and there's still some concerts not happening to the level that they were. One example would be like the Metropolitan Opera, which is a very, very large arts organization. And their musicians are still not back to work yet, and haven't worked since that shutdown, as well as Broadway. So people who played in those in the orchestra there and other organizations like that were our bread and butter. And without them here, we had to go to the people who were elsewhere. And it was a lot of work. But without those platforms and having that red presence and redefining how we do business, I don't think it would have survived.
Mm. Yeah, tough situation, but amazing to see you do that, Josh. And I personally can't wait. That's one of the first things I want to do when we get back to, go to concerts. I still check them to see if anyone's touring, but I haven't found a lot. Josh, you mentioned it there, and I'm wondering for Josh, you or for Divya, if you want to answer. You talked a little bit about social media and how you turn to it. So curious, what role did Facebook and Instagram play for you? And, are there any tips or suggestions you have for the audience listening as well?
Yeah, so there were a lot of different things that we did with social media. One was really trying to curate our content. And second was using ads to try to reach new clientele base. By using some of Facebook's algorithms with ads, we were able to really find the clients we were looking for who didn't necessarily know about us or didn't know our capabilities. And it was not, I never really ran ads or, we posted on Facebook and posted on Instagram with social media, but we never really went for targeted audiences. So really learning some of those skills and experimenting around on what type of targeted ads would work. And how to also curate that for our clientele base as they're, kind of scrolling through a platform to see an ad that is going to interest them that would lead to then the click and the conversion rate. And it's really something that I found amazing, because it was something I really didn't know about. I always would see, let's make an ad or, suggested posts and things like that. And I never really paid attention to it. But it's really pretty amazing, and still even now it's working for us for both our local business and people. I mean, New York's a really big city, and the area around New York is huge, and people are still finding us from our social media posts and our social media ads. It's really kept my business alive.
That's great to hear. So one of the things I've noticed with small businesses when I've talked to them is there's often this perception of, oh, innovation has to be like this really big thing or big investment or spend a lot of money. But oftentimes innovation can be about doing the small things and the small important things for your customers. And they really notice and pick up on that. So I'm kind of curious, like, as you've thought about your, the last year and a half, what's been something that you've done that your customers have just loved and they've really given you praise for?
So, about Facebook, right? So when I started wanting to reach out to a lot of people, I started doing posts and trying my hand at ads. Of course, I'm not an expert, but through that process, it made me learn what my customers really want. Because, sometimes coming from, the medical background, like, these are my skills, this is what I can offer, it's people who want that kind of come to me. Instead, this became a role reversal where let's find out what your needs are and let me see how I fit into that puzzle. And it really helped me because, as I mentioned, during the pandemic was when I was growing as an entrepreneur. So I was thrown into the throngs of entrepreneurship from day one, with my clinic being shut down 2 weeks after I started it. And so I feel that, it really helped me understand what the client wants. For example, if I do a post, depending on the number of likes or comments I get, I understand that, okay, this is what the person wants to know more about. And you were talking about, Rich, the small things, right? So one of the small things that worked for me was that I would do these weekly posts on different stretches that one can do at their desk. Something very simple that when I would see clients in my clinic, they would be like, oh, my neck hurts, what can I do? I was like, okay, let me just make. And it was so low tech, using my own phone in my clinic after I'm done at the end of the day. So I don't like change or put makeup or anything. It's just simple stuff. And I would get people like my friends from like Singapore and London watching these posts and having questions for me. And this is what I like, because, mine is a service industry, right? So it's not a selling of a product, and people need to develop trust in you. So when I first time did the ads, it did not give me the results I wanted. But then I learned that, I cannot just say, okay, come and get your low back pain treated or something like that, without them understanding, what I really do. How can I, collaborate with other clinicians they are seeing? They are trusting me with their body. So how do I kind of build that relationship even before I get that first person coming in? And doing these kind of videos kind of started that conversation. And it was great for me because I felt that, okay, it was something I would look forward to at the end of the week, that, okay, today's my day to post my video. What kind of content should I do? And it really helped me understand that, okay, I need to not just be good at my clinical skills, but I need to be better at, knowing what my customer needs and giving them that. So these small videos got me a lot of business, where a lot of Messenger, I would get messages on Messenger on, what is this about? Can you tell me more? What do you do? So I feel that really helped me, get to know my customer better.
Mm. I love that first experience when somebody first tries of the video or the ad or the post, and then all of a sudden they get that engagement. They didn't expect it. They couldn't have predicted it, but it changes them, it changes how they work. So I love hearing those stories. You made my day. All right, so we're going to shift gears. We're going to talk a lot about this, but we're going to shift gears into talking about the mental sport of resilience, really, which is, mental health is incredibly important. We've all been tested, no matter what we do. For me personally, one of the things I try to do is I try to exercise, and I've gotten into golf. And besides the physical benefits of exercise and playing golf, the sports just help me clear my mind and creates a new focus, even if I can't hit the ball particularly well, which is often the case. But when we talk about business resilience, there's that equal, requirement or need for the leaders of the business. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, how do you prioritize your mental health, and what have you looked to do so far?
It was really tough for me in the beginning with mental health, with my business being closed and kind of the unknown. And even when we reopened, the unknown of being able to stay in business, I was not in a good headspace. There were a lot of nights of crying and not sleeping and worrying about not only my business, but my employees' livelihood, my clientele base livelihood. People not being able to work. New York's a very, very expensive city to live in. And with people, not making money and not working, it really made me quite depressed. But some things that I did to really be resilient and help with my mental health was I talked to friends. I talked to other, business owners of their stresses and things that they were doing, and we would bounce ideas off each other. I prioritized more time with my family. One thing I'm sure a lot of people who were stuck indoors during the shutdown is, I have a 6-year-old son, and as my wife was working and my business wasn't, I was the primary caretaker for him. So now spending time with him and doing activities with him has really, helped me get through it, because he's young and he's innocent and he's excited about what I do. He says, "Oh, Dad, you fix trumpets," and "Oh, Dad, music's so cool," and he wants to do music. So spending time with him and seeing his joy and happiness really helps me through things. Also, what's really helped me through it and deal with things is the support from my community. I thought that I was just a business. And, when the shutdown happened, I remember a group of musicians got together on a call and broadcast it on Facebook. And they had famous musicians come in and say how important my business was to them. And they would tell stories about, how my business or my staff or myself helped them do their job. They had an instrument break right before a big show, and how we helped them. And that motivation and that support of the community saying, "Hey, we appreciate you," has really driven me a lot to be in a good headspace, even when times were tough and, money wasn't coming in, and kind of that eternal gloom of, is this ever going to end, or are things ever going to get better? I just persevered because I know I'm important to people. And knowing that you're important to someone in such a big community really helps with that headspace, and really motivates me to strive to stay open and strive to do a better job to help them. To be entrusted with someone's livelihood like an instrument it's like, entrusting someone with their health and their body hurting, and you being there to help them. Those things, and spending some good time outdoors also, some hiking and doing things outdoors has also really helped.
That's amazing. Got chills, Josh, as you're talking about that. Divya?
Yeah,
How do you stay down?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So mental health and physical health are so connected, right? And I felt that I had to keep it together, because people come to me looking for answers and they share their woes, and I had to, be there for them. And I think that helped, because then you shift your focus from, what's going on inside your mind to helping out somebody else. And then I think it also family and community were huge. One of the things that was unexpected for me, that I live in like a family, like a single family home community, and usually what happens is that people are very busy with their lives, and we never really get to interact with neighbors and stuff. But when the pandemic started, people would like come out and stand outside their house, just like seeing their kids play, and just kind of seeing people, because at that time I was not meeting my friends, my family, like other than my husband and daughter. I was not meeting any other family or relatives. It was just good to have this almost like a social bubble. It was outside, we are distanced, but we could check on each other. So that really helped. Being in California, going to, seeing the ocean. We would not even go to the beach because they were shut down, because we would just drive by the ocean, and that really helped. Nature is a big healer. And then I took this opportunity to do a lot of improving my mental health resilience. Like I would read a lot of books and Audible. This was an opportunity for me to talk to some of my psychology and psychiatry friends. understanding what people are going through. So I feel that I kind of understood the science behind a lot of it so that I can help my patients better. And in that way, I also help myself because I could put some of those principles into practice.
Well, thank you for sharing. We did some research and we published it in a global state of small business report. And what we learned was we saw just how businesses are responding to the new world. And there's a lot of ups and downs, and that's a harsh reality. And businesses considering reducing their workforces, not rehiring, there's a lot of mental toll. And I know there's probably some businesses listening out there who are wondering, like, are they going to make it? Are they going to survive? How much longer? Depending upon what they're going through in their local area. And so I was wondering if you could just share, like, was there ever a moment that, you obviously you all are making it now, but was there ever a moment where you said, despite this community, despite the support, like, I may not make it? And how did you kind of push through that? Josh, start with you.
There were a couple times during the pandemic that I really lost hope and lost faith about, one, reopening, and two, staying open. And the first time I kind of lost faith was the first round of the PPP loan. I didn't get it on the first round, and I had to move my business. I was stressing to move my business before the shutdown, but then, how am I going to be able to bring my staff back to work? My business, there's no business without my staff. We're really a family, and we work hard, and not that point when, getting denied that first PPP and the government not, coming out with round two and opening back up. I didn't know if I would be able to hire them back. And if I couldn't hire them back, I couldn't have a business. And the second time where things started really looking bad was in the winter. Here in New York, COVID cases were on the rise around the country. There was still, no talks of people and musicians getting back to work. And really, I made a lot of personal sacrifices. I moved my family. We were living in New York City. We had a great apartment. We moved to New Jersey into the suburbs and are renting a house so that I could save money to help, keep my employees employed. And there was just a lot of sacrifice, and I just didn't know if it was worth it. As a business owner, you always say, we stay up at night worrying about turning the lights on and paying rent and, paying insurance and those fixed costs. And if business isn't coming in, it seems doomed. And really, it was just persevering through and trying to push and keep on pushing and pushing to stay open. And also, as I mentioned earlier, redefining how we reach our clientele base by growing our web presence. That was more than anything the thing that kept us going. But there were plenty of times, Rich, where I thought it was going to be the end. And it's only been in the past few months that things have gotten a lot better, and I'm really hopeful again. So I feel for the other business owners out there who are struggling with employees. And to me, it's just been a lot of sacrifice, and it's thankfully paid off.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, Josh. And almost right on cue, we heard the music in the background. So love hearing it. I was trying to figure out what that tune was. So Divya, we'll go over to you. You talked about the community you had and talking to various experts and mental health. But was there ever a time where you said, you know what, I'm doing all this, but I'm not sure if I'm going to make it?
Every week, Rich, every week. I think that's like an ongoing thing. And you need somebody to kind of tell you that, no, it's okay, you can do it. In a way, I feel that, silver lining, I had to build resilience from day one. And so now I feel like, I'm ready for anything, bring it on. But definitely, there were definitely days when I would be low and I would be sad and worried and, as Josh said, sleepless nights. And it's but it took so much courage. I don't know about Josh, but for me, I transitioned from being employed, working for somebody else, to working for myself. So it takes a long time. People have gone through this journey of should I do it, should I not do it? What are the pros and cons, and what am I giving up? And so it took so much time to kind of be ready to do it that whatever happened, I was not, I didn't want to give that up. And I knew that this is part of the journey. Nobody gets it easy. I'm sure I've heard stories about people going bankrupt when they start their businesses, or having relationship trouble because they're spending so much time at work. I feel that the pandemic kind of in a way brought everybody together. So it was not just my own battle, but it was everybody was facing it. Everybody were going through a lot of tough times. So even though I would feel hopeless sometimes, I would, I knew that this is something that, I will get through and people will get through. And I'm from the medical community. So again, I saw a lot of hope in what science was doing, and, how the vaccine was built quickly, and the standards that were being put in place, and how people were following some of the mandates. So in a way, I felt that, okay, it's hard and it's long, but we will get there. And there were definitely there was the glimmer of hope every now and then. Something really good will happen, or something supportive words from friends and family would really cheer me up.
Yeah, it's a great story. Thank you for sharing. All right, so we are into our final stretch here. A couple final questions. I'll share that one of the things that I've seen in working at a digital platform, Facebook, is I've seen firsthand this sort of deep connection relationships build between businesses and their customers online. And so it's a pleasure every day for me to hear your stories and the stories of so many others. But if somebody out there is watching and they're skeptical about using social media or shifting their business online, and they say, that's not for me, or it sounds pretty complicated, or I'm not a social person, what advice would you give for them? Divya, we'll start with you, and then Josh.
Yeah, I think that it's like doing a disservice to your customers if you don't have a social media or online presence, because everybody's on it these days, right? I'm not saying stop the other ways of marketing, like still do your going and meeting people in person, or doing giving a call to somebody that you want to establish a relationship with. But get there on social media. And like anything new, there's the fear of the unknown. But one thing good about social media is that it's not very expensive, right? So it's something that you can start at a very low cost or at no cost, and then kind of build from there. And Facebook has all these like great resources where I watched videos to learn how to do it. I actually spoke to an advisor from Facebook where I told them that I want to do cater to the dance community, but what should I use, and what kind of videos, and how long should they be? So there are people kind of trying to help us as well. So I feel that one should do it, and then there are a lot of resources available, and you will kind of stumble and falter and make bad decisions and choices. So start slow, start with a target audience that you already know would enjoy watching your content, and then kind of build from there. And you'll be surprised at what you find, and how you might even pivot what you're doing, because you feel that there is an audience that's looking for what you are giving, and you have probably not even thought about them. For example, in my case, as I mentioned, I'm a dancer, and I didn't mention this, but I'm a dancer, and I was mostly kind of catering to the corporate professionals. But like the music community, as Josh mentioned, the dance community was also like, at a loss when the pandemic happened. And it felt that, okay, now is my chance to kind of reach out to this community and offer my services. Probably when they are not performing, this is a time to kind of take care of their body needs. And once I started kind of having a few dancers reach out to me, I did my Facebook Live event where I had questions from the dancers. I kind of posted videos. I created, a separate business page for just dancers. So I feel that once you kind of start going in that direction of what you really feel passionate about, there's so much resources, and things will eventually kind of line up.
Thanks for that advice. Josh, what advice would you offer?
Well, I first encourage everybody to do it. This day and age, everybody walks around with, one of these things in their hand, and you go someplace and everybody's looking at their phone on Facebook, on Instagram, on social media. As a business, business owners, we're passionate about what we do. There's a reason we're business owners. We love what we do, whether it's a restaurant, physical therapy, a music store, publishing, writing, selling things. A business owner is passionate. And by having social media to kind of share your passion with people is a very important thing. And it can seem, kind of overwhelming. You might not, be tech savvy, or you might not have a lot of experience with social media, or think it's just for kids, or whatever your thoughts are. It's a lot easier to do than you think. It takes a little bit of research and a little bit of reading, like any type of advertising or marketing. And it takes some trial and error, but it's really something that I've found that it's not as tricky as I thought. In years past, I didn't really pay for advertising and didn't really have a lot of focus on the social media side, short of, posting something here and there. Nowadays, it's become kind of a routine as part of the business, and saying, hey, this is what we have. This is what we can offer. And I really encourage businesses to do it. It's a little bit of work for a lot of payoff in growing your community outside of your neighborhood, or the shopping mall you're in, or the local people. It's really something that I couldn't imagine running my business without it right now. And it takes, as I mentioned, it takes a little bit of work to get it dialed in. But once it's there, that once you get that recipe, the little bit of salt and whatever in there, it's really amazing how it can benefit your business.
Mm-hmm. That's great. All right, final question for me, and then I want to make sure we have a little time for some audience questions as well. So just give us a few sentences on this last one from each of you. So tell us about your future plans. What can we expect to see from each of you? So Divya, we'll start with you, and then Josh to wrap us up.
So today is actually a good day for me. I completed, 2 years of my business, Right Stack Physical Therapy, and we just opened another location in the East Bay. So my primary location is in South Bay in California, Sunnyvale, and now we open another one in Dublin, California, catering to athletes. So now we are doing, I have started doing, because of the pandemic, I've started doing a lot of health talks on the importance of ergonomics and posture in desk workers. And that talk is getting extremely popular. So I'm getting more requests from HRs of companies to do more ergonomic assessments for the employees, and how to create this hybrid workspace where people are coming into the office, a couple of times a week, and then are working from home, how to make it easy on the employee. So it kind of, again, makes me think of programmatic development in that area. So the future for Right Stack Physical Therapy would be to, continue with the concierge one-on-one practice, really customer focused, doing the online sessions, and then reaching out to the performing arts community through our videos on social media, and then, also catering to different businesses as whole and helping their employees stay safer. So super excited. I survived the pandemic. Our business survived the pandemic. So I feel that, that gives me a lot of confidence, and I'm super excited for what's to come.
Thank you, Divya. Josh?
I'm excited for a few things. I'm really excited, as you mentioned earlier, Rich, concerts coming back, and seeing music and seeing arts and performing. But with the business, there's two things that I'm really proud of. One, we've recently launched our own brand of instrument. It's an imported instrument, but with that, we're also forming a 501c3 where the proceeds and the profits of that in-house brand is going to go to fund the 501c3 to help our community, to help musicians who can't afford instruments and who can't afford repairs, whether it's a professional on hard times or it's school systems. I'm really excited to help the community now. They really came to us and helped us through this pandemic and are continuing to help us. And I've seen a lot of hurt and suffering with people not working. And I really am excited to start giving back.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh my goodness. On behalf of everyone listening and everyone organizing, I just want to say thank you both so very much for sharing your stories. And look, we know there are so many questions that remain, but even in these uncertain times, you've demonstrated that it's possible to survive and to thrive. And if you ask me, that's what entrepreneurs do. You remain resilient and entrepreneuring your way forward and surviving, even if that means pivoting or going in a completely new direction or augmenting how you work. So, my hope for everyone listening today is you will be inspired by some of these learnings and have a few strategies maybe jotted down that you can apply to your business in the future. So thank you both once again. And with that, we will next go to audience questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're really excited, and I just want to say thank you for all the nice comments that came in through the Q&A box. So our first question is for all of you, and there were a lot of questions that came in that were very similar about what are the resources that you guys turned to, or who did you ask for help when it came to launching ad campaigns or just working on social media?
I can take that. So
Awesome.
I reached out to other business owners. I think that's important, and it doesn't need to be in the same industry. It could be in a different industry, but talking to other business owners and entrepreneurs and how they started on this journey of placing ads or using Facebook, social media would be great, because you'll get firsthand experience on what worked and did not work, and then you can take some feedback from that and then create your own strategy. Of course, the best way to do it is doing it and then learning on your own. And as I mentioned that starting it at low cost, you're not going in with a heavy investment where there's a lot of stress, and then changing your target audience. As I also mentioned that there is resources available in the small business platform on Facebook. So I'm part of the Facebook Leaders Network, and it's a Facebook group where I can ask a lot of questions online, and that would help me as well. Of course, there are social media marketing experts, but I tried doing it on my own first instead of handing it over to somebody else, because you know your business better than any other person that you employ. And I feel that once you try out these strategies, you will learn from it, and that will help you in developing more strategies for the overall business.
Josh, do you have anything else to add?
I do. So there's a lot of good resources out there, particularly on Facebook. If people want to do a search for Facebook for business, Facebook has a really great page for small businesses that has videos and resources, interviews with other business owners. There's a web series called Boost My Business on Facebook that talks about ads and things like that. And there's videos with business owners such as myself, where Facebook came in and kind of helped us with, our process. So those are really, really good resources, and there's lots of information to read and videos to watch. And that's Facebook for Business. There's a small business section on there, and then Boost My Business by Facebook. As for ads, we did a couple different things. We first started with a really, really small budget, only a few $100s. And we had done a couple very short ads, video ads, and we tried different things to see what content would generate a better click response or an open rate. We ran the ads at the same time, and the ads that got less attention, we didn't run. And then the ones that got more attention, we said, okay, why is this getting, what's the demographics that this is reaching to? And then we put more energy and focus into those ads. It wasn't very costly. It wasn't really a lot of work inside the Facebook platform. It's pretty easy to do if you have a Facebook business account. And that also transfers over to Instagram too for the ads in there. And you can see the analytics and the insights into that and use that information to really target your marketing and your audience.
Awesome. Our next question is in this similar vein. A lot of people are asking about what platform you guys would recommend starting on. If you only had to pick one, as someone who is new to social media, where do you think they should launch their business social?
I tried Facebook first and then moved on to Instagram, and I continued with my email marketing as well. So I figured out a way to create an email database, because not everybody is on social media, and if you just pick a social media platform, sometimes you might miss people who are not on it but would still benefit from your services. And it also depends on the kind of audience you're catering to. For example, in my case, as I'm saying, my niche is corporate professionals and performers. I first had to understand where these people hang out, right? So for a lot of dancers, they use Instagram more than Facebook. And so I started posting more video on Instagram. And I got to know about this by interviewing a few dancers and asking, what's a platform that would work for them. So instead of guessing, you can just ask your audience. And I'm sure they would appreciate you interviewing them, because they will feel that you really care about them. For my corporate professionals, some of them were on social media, and some of them, are on in front of the computer for a long time and wanted to take themselves away from that. And so email marketing worked better. So I would say Facebook, Instagram, and email marketing would be the place to start.
To kind of expand on that, we're using both Instagram and Facebook for different audiences. After running some ads and kind of looking at the demographics of our posts under insights, we determined that Facebook is generally reaching out to our older clientele base, and I'm talking, 50 on up. And Instagram generally is gravitated towards my younger clientele base. And using those insights, if you're posting on Facebook and Instagram, there's a tab for each post that talks about the insights. And you can look into the demographics and see really where the audience interacts. For my business, we get a lot more interaction on a post on Instagram, as far as just comments and views. But on Facebook, we get more shares, and tends to be a little bit more conversation on there. So you really, after a little bit of work in figuring out which platform works best, you can then push towards that and put a little bit more of the eggs in one basket, so that you're reaching the audience that you're really trying to reach.
Great, thank you. Our next question ties into this as well. You guys both talked about your audiences, and we have a couple people wondering how you identified your target audience.
I can go first. So it depends on what skill and what business you are doing, right? So there are certain businesses where it's catered towards a specific audience. Like if you're making children's clothing, it's catered towards kids. And for businesses where it could be any age group, any demographic, you might want to start by targeting the audience that you already have. So if you have people who are coming to see you within a specific age group, within a specific demographic with certain interests, then you can start with that and then expand instead of trying into something that's completely different and then being disappointed with the results. Start from what you already know and then expand from there, right? So as I mentioned, again, in my case, corporate professional, mostly in the age group of 30 to 50 is when they start having repetitive strain injuries and are seeking out physical therapy. When I started my ads, I put that as my demographic. And also because a service industry usually caters to people around the community, as I also put in like a geographical radius of like 10 miles around my clinic is what I'm catering to. Also, specific interests. So people who are interested in sports, who buy a certain kind of product. Sometimes, people who are looking for a knee brace or a low back brace. Because I know that my patients who come to me with knee pain are probably using a knee brace, and they are the ones who are in their offices all day but want to enjoy playing tennis or soccer in the evening. So knowing my audience better, I was able to use that information when creating Facebook. That's why I'm saying that, instead of you outsourcing it, it's probably a good idea to try it on your own. And I know that it might seem like, oh, there's so many things and I don't know what's going on, but just, have patience, calm down, do one thing at a time. And there are resources and free resources and help available. So start with that, and then you can grow later.
So some things that I've kind of learned as a business owner is, as a business owner, we know who our customers are. Whether you're a restaurant and you're catering to a certain type of cuisine that people like, or you're a retail store, or you're offering a service, in the past, where your customers would come from. So by using your social media posts, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, really, as I said before, those insights will really tell you who your audience is and who you're not reaching either. I know for my business, my clientele base is predominantly male. And running ads and seeing insights, I really learned that I need to, go after female brass players more. And it's something that we're working towards, is to reach a group of people that we haven't really had a lot of interaction with, where it's not the majority of our clientele base. So with those insights, even if it's not on an ad, if it's on a post, or if you have analytics through your website, you can see where your demographics are. Some things we also do is the use of hashtags. If you follow certain hashtags, or you're using certain hashtags with your business, that's a really good resource to kind of learn what your audience might be that you don't know about. So if you're browsing on Instagram and let's say you have a soul food restaurant and you hashtag fried chicken or soul food or different hashtags like that, you can look at who are interacting with those, who are posting about it, and take that information and kind of target down your audience a little bit more. My business is very niche. It's professional brass instruments. Not everybody plays a brass instrument. There's other music stores, some people really don't care about brass instruments, and that's okay. But I want to go for the people who have an interest in brass instrument, or they have a family member who plays a brass instrument, and we can say, hey, check us out. And that's done with those insights. And it's I've said it a couple of times. It's a really valuable resource that doesn't cost anything. I know in the questions here, people are talking about budget and things like that. And these are really free tools if you have a business page or a business Instagram account that you can do. Also, if you're sharing things on your own personal page, where your friends, or if you're doing a public post, you can kind of see if something's been reshared or who's looking at it. That's all really good ways and tools to reach your audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And this is our last question. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I'll just make this one real quick. I think we're getting into some of the tools here that we have within advertising. There are a couple of things called custom audiences and lookalike audiences, and allow you to take your current customers and then find more people like them. All of this is explained on some of the resources John just mentioned on facebook.com/business. So you can go check that out. That was it. Thanks, Bailey.
No problem. We are actually at the end of our time. So that is all the questions that we will be answering this session. Thank you so much to all of you for attending this webinar. And once again, thank you for all of the wonderful comments that came in through the question and answer box. A special thank you, of course, to Rich, Divya, and Josh for joining us today and providing their insights. And thank you to Facebook for sponsoring this session. We hope that you'll continue to enjoy the virtual conference and network with other businesses in the networking lounge, visit sponsors and partners in the exhibit hall, and pick up free business resources, connect with SCORE and expert mentors in the mentor hall to assist you with your business questions. Thank you again, and we are looking forward to seeing you at the next session.